How can you get OHIP after graduation? Hi everyone, my name is Farzam and I recently graduated from Carleton University, and I know that it might be a little bit stressful when you're transitioning from academia to industry or finding a job or a postdoc, whatever you want to do. And one of the steps is for sure getting a health insurance. I hope nobody ever uses it, but it's good to mitigate the potential risks in the future. That's what the whole insurance industry is based on. Getting OHIP is pretty simple. We just need to go to the Ontario webpage, but there is a minor thing that makes it a little bit challenging. It was very confusing to me. On this page, I share my personal experiences and I want to share this with you. So if you look at it, we'll come back to the coverage and everything. You can get like like a walk-in clinics, appointments with a family doctor if you have one, medical tests and stuff, mostly X-rays if you need them, any doctors that you want to go to for like any prescription drugs that you might need for a skin condition or other things. Uh, like it doesn't cover the prescription drug, but it covers your visit to the doctor. Uh, who can qualify for this, especially for international students? If you want to get OHIP, you need to have two different conditions. The first ones are the minimum qualifications that you need are these three ones: physically in Ontario for 153 days in any 12-month period, physically in Ontario for at least 153 days of the first 183 days immediately after you begin living in the province, and make Ontario your primary residence. Most of the students who study in Ontario, they all have these three things unless they're studying remote, but I think that era is over where you were completely studying remote. So most of us, we get these things going. But here comes the second part. You need to at least have one of these conditions. And most international students, they're not a Canadian citizen. They're most probably not an Indigenous person if they are from countries in like Middle East or other areas. Applying for permanent residence in Canada, but you need to have submitted an application to IRCC, and IRCC has confirmed they have reviewed the application and that you meet the eligibility requirements to apply, and you have not been denied. So many people right after graduation, they are not receiving these, so it will take a little bit of while for them. The other option is that you're in Ontario on a valid work permit and are working full-time in Ontario for an Ontario employer for at least 6 months. Now, most of us qualify for this. We'll come back to this shortly, and I will explain that 6-month thing, which is a little bit confusing. You're in Ontario on a valid work permit under the federal Live-in Caregiver Program. Whole different story. In Ontario, on a valid work permit under the federal Seasonal Agricultural Worker Program, a convention refugee or other protected person. That's a whole different story than a student. Have a temporary resident permit or are a clergy member. Now, back to this point where most of us qualify for, you're in Ontario on a valid work permit. You normally graduate after finishing your studies and you are waiting for your essentially post-graduation work permit to come in, right? And post-graduation work permit comes in normally with 4 months of processing time after you receive your completion letter. Now, the point here is most universities extend your UHIP, the international health insurance, the health insurance for the international students, for 6 months after graduation. So you essentially can be covered by through UHIP for an extra 6 months for a fee that you pay to the university. That 6 months covers essentially the time period that you need to receive your post-graduation work permit. That's the number one thing. So in that period, you have the UHIP going on. In that same period, you're probably looking for a job, finding a job, and receiving a job offer. And what working full-time means that you're working at least 30 hours per week for an employer, right? So full-time, most of us can get it going. The challenging part is this for at least 6 months and what that means. From my experience, again, these are all personal experiences. You might work temporary for an employer with no contract, just on regular basis, completing your hours, the 30 hour per week, or you might have a contract for 4 months, which does not essentially complete that 6 month, but your contract might get renewed or your general job might continue beyond that 6 month period, right? Once that happens, you're essentially fulfilling that 6 month requirement. However, there's another option here. If you get a permanent job offer, or if you get a job offer that is at least for 6 months, you can also qualify. And that's how most people get qualified. If you're doing a postdoc for a year, you qualify. If you receive a job offer for 1 year, you qualify. If you are working on a contract for 8 months, you qualify. And all you need to do is you need to go to book an appointment with Service Ontario. You need to complete this form. And you need to have these three documents with you. The number one is Canadian citizenship or OHIP eligible immigration status, which is probably your post-graduation work permit. One document which sh essentially shows your residence in Ontario can be your the place that you're renting, your contract, could be your mobile bills or anything that essentially is tied to Ontario. Your car insurance, all those qualify. And the last one is proof of your identity. Can be a passport, can be a driving license, Ontario driving license, or anything that works there. That's how you get it. And that 6 month was really confusing for me, and I had to do a lot of research. I wanted to make sure that you guys have access to that. The good part is that you can live a stress-free life after graduation because that UHIP gets extended while you're waiting for your post-graduation work permit. And with a permanent job or a job offer that is beyond 6 months, you can easily get your OHIP going on for you. Thank you so much for joining, and I hope that these things are helpful to you. I'll keep posting more stuff that will essentially be helpful to the people like me who just graduated or were a little bit confused about the rules and regulations. Thank you so much. Have a great day.